So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis. But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit.
One, picture this, a hit daytime talk show, a self-assured host, and a group of students suddenly thrown into chaos. It kicked off when The View, that show decided to go after Turning Point USA, a conservative student organization, but they didn't stop at critiquing the group. They went further, taking aim at over 5,000 attendees. We're talking teens, high schoolers, and college kids who traveled from across the country, paying their own way just to hear discussions about politics and core values.
Kirk took issue with this depiction of his organization. Kirk maintains that Turning Point USA is not affiliated with anti-Semitism or white supremacist. In a strongly worded tweet, the 28-year-old stated, "Talking to lawyers, many think we have a strong case. You cannot smear minors as and get away with it. It impacts them for the rest of their life. Hashtag sue the View." That's when TPUSA went all in. The organization changed its profile pic on Twitter to hashtag sue the View, posted a number of tweets condemning The View and demanding an apology.
To then came the moment that lit the fire. Live on air. The View floated the idea that the students might be tied to neo-Nazi groups. That wasn't just irresponsible, it was explosive. Charlie Kirk, the face behind Turning Point USA, didn't brush it off. He wasn't just annoyed by the attack, he was livid that thousands of young people, most under 21, were being defamed on national TV. The students now carry a public lie, he said bluntly, because someone at ABC couldn't think before speaking. He didn't want justice for himself, he wanted it for the students who had trusted him. Oh, and before we go on, hit that like and subscribe button to support stories like this. Now, back to it. Sunny Hostin wasn't finished. She escalated things. On air, she bashed uneducated white women, saying many of Trump's female supporters lacked college degrees. Her tone, smug. She equated no diploma with no intelligence. And viewers didn't just disagree, they felt insulted. Because not having a degree doesn't make you dumb.
Something else to talk about. Maybe you should get the lawyer that worked on that Covington Catholic school case. What was that, a $200 million settlement? I think, Charlie, you could use the money, and your students definitely could too.
3. If The View was running out of topics, maybe they should have called the Covington Catholic kid's lawyer, the one behind that $200 million payout. Charlie and his students might need him. When you're lounging in a multi-million-dollar studio on a legacy network and casually dismissing everyday folks as uneducated, it doesn't look bold, it looks elitist. That moment was all Kirk needed. He turned it into Exhibit A for what he calls elite hypocrisy, a law school graduate on national TV, mocking Americans who took a different road. Many of them bust their backs, raise kids, pay taxes, and most critically vote. If you were watching from your living room, you didn't see a debate. You heard someone telling you your opinion matters less because you didn't go into debt for a diploma. That moment changed everything, and it only got worse. But here's the kicker, Kirk never even appeared on The View. No surprise walk-on. No table shouting match. Instead, he responded from miles away with a vengeance. The video? High grade. This wasn't filmed on a phone, it was tightly edited, intense, and theatrical.
We begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside.
For it didn't feel like a reply, it felt like a political ad wrapped in a street fight. Every second was engineered to humiliate Sunny Hostin. Kirk didn't just counter her views, he scorched them, packaged the remains, and fed them to the algorithm. And the timing, flawless. Just hours after the broadcast, Kirk's video was already spreading like a viral outbreak. Twitter caught fire. YouTube got flooded. TikTok turned it into bite-sized knockout punches. While Sunny was still under the hot lights of the studio, Kirk had seized the narrative from a whole different city. This was digital warfare, and Kirk was a tactician. He didn't win with thoughtful debate, he won with speed, editing, and internet-savvy showmanship. And the worst part for The View, he made it seem like she lost the argument without even entering the room.
Conference, were in the front of turning out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and the
I think it's important that every single person that attended that turning point, every Republican speak up against these against the Nazi
5. This wasn't really about who had the better argument. It was about who looked like they had control. And when Kirk's video hit the web, Sunny Hostin suddenly didn't look like the confident analyst everyone's used to. Her body language shifted. Her voice lost its steady rhythm. Her smile felt forced. And people took notice in a bad way. The internet doesn't slow down a fact check or hear your side. What it does care about is how someone reacts under fire. And Sunny looked shaken, not yelling, not breaking down, but visibly crumbling. It wasn't Real Housewives drama, it was more subtle, more uncomfortable. That quiet unraveling where you try to fake calm, but your eyes and voice betray you. Her glances darted to the teleprompter like it was an emergency exit. Her tone wobbled. Her whole energy screamed. How did this spiral out of control? Online, no one cared about the original debate anymore. They were sharing slowed-down clips of her blinking too fast, fidgeting, losing her composure. Politics faded out. Optics took over. And the optics said she got steamrolled.
We talked about the fact that there were openly demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the neo-Nazis from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
6. Charlie Kirk didn't just counter her take, he shattered her entire on-screen persona. And when a seasoned pro like Sunny, camera ready, polished, trained, starts to unravel live, the internet devours that. But this wasn't just a PR nightmare. After The View linked Turning Point student attendees to neo-Nazis, the group didn't just voice outrage, they got legal. A cease and desist landed at ABC's door. This wasn't a warning, it was a legal gauntlet. The message: you don't get to smear 5,000 students and walk away like it's no big deal. And what made it worse was knowing how hard these kids worked just to be there. Plane tickets weren't cheap. Gas prices were insane.
Welcome back. In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me. And it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, the state, the U.S.
Over the weekend, Turning Point USA hosted a riveting event in Tampa, Florida called the Student Action Summit. Outside of the event were individuals waving flags and engaged in other activities. Well, on Monday's show, members of The View made a few comments about it.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in. You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
7. Yet they came high schoolers, college students from all over the country. Not to riot, not to throw signs, but to hear speakers and learn something. No hate groups, no violence. Just eager young people trying to engage with politics. And instead of being praised for their passion, they were slandered, painted with the same brush as a fringe group that wasn't even inside. Kirk made sure to set the record straight. Turning Point never invited those extremists. In fact, they tried to get them removed, but they were stuck dealing with protesters on public property. Still, that didn't stop The View from lumping them all together. And that false narrative stuck. Kirk didn't sugarcoat it. He called it what it was, a calculated smear.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach.
8. If anyone thought the media could lob baseless accusations and walk away unscathed, they were about to learn otherwise. Sunny Hostin wasn't ambushed. No surprise guest. No explosive confrontation. It was just her, the camera, and the sound of Charlie Kirk's viral takedown echoing across the internet. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't even show up. His response was surgically edited, a precision strike that hit harder than any in-person exchange ever could. While The View stuck to its formula panel chatter, scripted quips, move along, Kirk went nuclear. He tore through her ideology like a past due notice, mocking her elitism and dismantling her worldview with the energy of someone settling a personal score. He made her a caricature, out of touch, overeducated, and completely divorced from the realities of everyday Americans.
How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sunny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, it's or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that's fine.
9. This wasn't just critique, it was a coronation for the anti-elite crowd. Sunny wasn't seen as a commentator anymore. She became an avatar for everything conservatives love to roast: smug media class, academic arrogance, and condescension toward working class people. The clip exploded trending, dominating feeds. Reaction channels flooded the zone. People didn't just watch, they devoured it. And Sunny, she couldn't clap back, not really. Because once the internet turns you into a meme, you're no longer a person, you're a punchline. Headlines followed: Charlie Kirk's daytime massacre, Sunny hit by reality brick. Every micro-expression, links, glances, fake smiles got slowed down, remixed, looped. TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, they turned her discomfort into a buffet of schadenfreude. Meanwhile, on The View, the air drained from the room. Conversations stalled. Even the live audience seemed unsure: do we clap or do we cringe?
This is Sunny. You guys thought that abortion was going to be this like quasi-zealot religious issue. I'm pro-life. If people in the audience aren't, that's fine. What I'm saying though, what gives me promise, and I think we can all agree on this, is that there are other issues that should animate and drive our politics other than this very divisive one. And I was really encouraged by that, Megan. Very encouraged, because the media was forcing this as an up or down vote on a referendum on a highly complicated, very emotional, very personal issue. And it turned out the American people were like, yeah, actually, these other 6 things matter.
10. You could feel it through the screen. The unshakable Sunny Hostin looked shaken. Not a meltdown, not a tantrum, but an unraveling. Live on air. The size, the stiff posture, the crack in her voice, it was subtle but obvious. And Kirk, nowhere to be seen. He was likely celebrating behind a screen, watching as his edit burned through the algorithm like napalm. His second video dropped days later, more dramatic, more savage. Flashy graphics, music, slow zooms on Sunny's face. It played like a political hit trailer. The message? These well-manicured liberal elites on daytime TV never spoke for regular Americans. The clip didn't just go viral, it became digital currency. TikTokers added violin tracks. YouTubers reacted. Gen Z made dances out of her facial expressions. Every blink became monetized. And the twist: Sunny never yelled, never stormed off. Her silence, awkward, real, and painfully visible, was the exact crack the internet feast on. When she finally addressed it, a soft, careful apology slipped into the next episode, it was too late. She admitted she'd made assumptions about the TPUSA students, but the damage was cultural. Conservative blogs called it a win. Members called it content. Merch was made. T-shirts printed with her frozen expression. Her credibility turned into a dubstep remix. Meanwhile, Kirk had already won, not because he had the facts, but because he understood the game. Emotional, viral, unrelenting. Sunny came armed with law degrees and reason. Kirk brought edits, outrage, and internet muscle. And in 2025, that wins every time.